We're going to talk about WordPress, both as a website builder and a blogging platform. Our goal of our seminars that we're having the second Tuesday of every month is to teach you how to fish, not to give you fish. So it's an old saying, goes back a long time, but it's a very good concept. And that's what we're working on here. Today, these are kind of the basic topic areas we're going to cover. We're going to talk about WordPress in general, kind of what it is, and kind of get you a mindset of what to expect, and talk about the kinds of things it can do. Feel free to pop your hand up and stop me if you don't understand something, or you need a little more explanation, or you have something related to that you want to ask. We'll also talk about how you get it up and running. There's many different ways you can get it up and running. If you already have it, then you've already managed to crack that nut, and that's good. But somewhere along the line, you may want to do it a little differently. So these will give you your different options that you might have for getting WordPress up and running. How can I use WordPress as a website builder? This has become the most popular use of website, to build a website, as opposed to a blog. But you still can do both, or you can do a hybrid site of both, where you can have a blog and a website at the same time. We're going to talk basically about themes and plugins in terms of where they fit into the architecture of WordPress. And next month, we're going to do a whole presentation on themes. And the month after that, we're going to do a whole presentation on plugins. So there's a lot of material to cover there that we won't cover today. Today, I'm just going to introduce the ideas and where they fit in. And that will give you some insight as to what to look for when you're looking for some kind of functionality. Do I go to a theme, or do I go to a plugin, or can I find a theme that has those plugins already built in? There's a lot of hybrid solutions there. And then, of course, the last one, somebody always asks me, how much work is this?
A lot.
Oh boy. I'll try to give you some perspective on that. I'll try real hard not to scare you. But basically, with a little patience, you shouldn't have too much trouble. Keep in mind that the ebook goes into a lot more detail, a little more hand-holding kind of thing, so that when you get, if you feel like I've zoomed past things, I probably have, because I'm trying to squeeze it into 45 minutes, stop me, okay, please stop me. And please understand that some of that material is covered in much more detail, 23 pages in the ebook, and if I sat down and read it, it would take me longer than 45 minutes. It's going to be posted on the meetup site. I'll be sending an email out to everybody when I post it. So if you're registered, okay, go in and register, and you'll automatically get an email.
It came up on the chamber. That's how I found out about it. I didn't know about the meetup site.
If you go to www.meetup.com/webtechbusiness and register to that meetup group, which is sort of like the focus of this, then you'll get all the information about these seminars. You'll also get an email when I post material. You'll get that email with the link to the video and the ebook. Okay? So it'll be right there. I'm not trying to force you to join a group. It's an easy way to communicate to everybody. Okay, what is WordPress? It is a website building or blog platform that uses templates. In other words, the header, the sidebar, the footer, all those things are individual template sections. You won't find, in any content management system, you won't find a page, one page that has everything. So if you've done any HTML static website work, you're going to have to reorient, because there's nowhere where you're going to see it all in one place. You're going to be working in little pieces. And then you've got to put it together and see if it all worked. So it can be tedious at times, but it also allows you to build. Once you kind of get the hang of it, you can build very rapidly, because all these pieces you don't have to touch again. They just get stuck in there for you. Also, WordPress has widgets, which you can rearrange sort of common pieces on the sidebar or across the bottom that do tasks. You can define custom widgets. You can write your own widgets if you want. Or you can download various plugins that give you even more widgets. So you really don't have to know any HTML to bring in quite a host of different widgets. You can switch between themes. You can have one theme running for a while. Oh, I need to change the pace. Bring in another theme, how? The website looks totally different. There are some cautions in that area that we'll talk about when we talk about themes. You have to be kind of careful because one theme supports certain kinds of widgets, another theme supports others, and if you have a widget you really love and that new theme doesn't support it, guess what? That theme will disappear. That widget will disappear. Boom, gone. So you gotta kind of plan ahead and realize that when you switch themes, if you've done a lot of fancy stuff, you're gonna have to do some fixing. If you haven't, if you stay pretty standard, then it'll be seamless. Okay, so it just depends on how far out of the box you get. Basic motivations for using WordPress are content management. That means you want to make a website. That's what content management is. It has a large community of users. You can go on the WordPress forums and ask questions and get a lot of feedback. People are very helpful. And themes and plugins are massive. I mean, there are literally thousands upon thousands of themes and plugins, covering just about every topic you can imagine. Yes?
Is there a master list of plugins and widgets on WordPress somewhere?
On the WordPress site, there's a, go there and you go themes and there they all are. Unfortunately,
What's in the widgets and the plugins?
themes and plugins, right,
Okay.
all listed there. Then you can also search on Google and get some others that aren't on that site. Be very careful if you're using a theme or a plugin that isn't on the WordPress site, that you kind of vet it before you use it. There is a lot of stuff out there in which people are actually putting hacking code in, and you download it and suddenly you're a bot for somebody. So, yes.
To my understanding, plugins are not offered on the .com, but they are on the .org. Is that
Yes, I'm gonna get into the difference of those two, yes. Yes, there is a distinct difference between WordPress.com and WordPress.org. We're gonna talk about that in yes.
Do I have to worry about that if I already have WordPress plugged into my website?
We're worried about what specifically.
I already have the whole, it's tied into my website. I don't have to worry about org and .com.
No, you're using the org version.
I got you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, WordPress is a website builder is going to be our primary focus because the blog part of it is kind of automatic. I mean, you install it and boom, you've got the blog software right there. Matter of fact, when you first install WordPress, this is what you're going to get. Something like this. This is just one of our test sites that we use to play with. And you can see right off the bat, this is, all I did was change the title. You get a hello world. This would be a blog post. Your recent blog post would show up over here. In other words, when you install WordPress, there, you automatically have a blog. If you want a blog, basically don't do anything other than change the picture or add a theme or whatever. You don't have to do any work because it is a blog. Right there, boom, you got it. Okay? It's only if it gets a little more complicated if you want to turn it into a website. Okay, then you're going to enroll, and that's that's why we're going to focus on that a little bit more. Okay? Okay, so you have themes and plugins for fast and quick, easy enhancements. The plugins in particular are literally in the 20-something thousand. So I mean they cover, and it's growing daily. So you can imagine somebody probably has built it already. It has extensive page management tools. Now that's separate from the blog, in which you create pages and you can put them in hierarchies and attach them to menus. There's a whole system of building pages. And this is where you're going to be if you're doing more of a website. So you're going to be thinking of pages, not posts. So there's two things, pages and posts. If you're doing it as a website, you're going to focus on pages. We'll actually look at where that's at in the administrative console. You have what's called a WYSIWYG editor. What you see is what you get. There's enhancements. If you're going to be doing some fancy things, there's enhancements to the editor. The editor is an open source editor called TinyMice, Tiny M-I-C-E. And there's a whole bunch of enhancement plugins that will give you a whole bunch of more tools for doing fancy things on your web page. Okay? Yeah, that's the way it's pronounced, TinyMice. It's Tiny M-I-C-E with no I. That's the open source tool that's built into the open source WordPress. In other words, WordPress uses open source stuff in its internals that are built by other people, okay? You have the capability of editing your templates. There is a thing on the menu on the left that says editor. You click that, you'll see all your templates, your header, your footer, and you can actually edit them. You can actually go in and mess them up.
Badly.
Speaking
For
of
better or for worse, yes.
preview capabilities, are you gonna be able to preview what you're doing in the editor before you make it go live?
No. Not in the template editor, no. Once you edit it and save it, you've jumped off the cliff.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. That's why when we're building sites, we build sites on separate domains and then we move them over so that people can look at them and blah, 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 before we make them go live. So we do that frequently, especially if we're doing really wild things, okay? So that would be probably a good idea if you were doing wild things. You have image management. You download images, share them throughout your website. You don't have to plug an image in individually and download it 5 times. There's an image manager. You can bring all your images in, and then when you're working over here, you can plug them in, and it all comes from one place, okay? And there's a little pop-up thing that shows you the images you have in your image library, and you can place them. Okay, so there's a whole image management. Also includes videos and things like that too. So you can also do that with videos. So it's a media manager, actually, is what it's called. WordPress is a blog. That's the default setup. You have ways to build categories and put tags on blog posts. And while you're building content, you have automatic RSS feeds, which is simple syndicated system. That's what RSS means. RSS feeds that you can feed out to people from your blog, and there's all kinds of social media tools, plugins that you can add to your blog that takes your blog posts, posts them on Twitter and Facebook and automatically. So there's tools where you post on your blog and automatically it goes onto your WordPress and it goes onto Twitter and does all that automatically. So it's kind of a one-shot deal. And of course, on your website, you can have your website do both at the same time. You can have pages and a blog section. So you can actually do both. You don't have to choose if you don't want to. Core components of WordPress. What's the very core of WordPress? Basically, you have basic posting and editing and formatting tools, both for the blog posts and for pages. The tools used for both are very similar, so once you learn one, you've learned the other. They're not really different, same tools. You have ways of categorizing your posts or pages and attaching them to menus so that you can actually have them directly go to different menus. You have the ability to have multi-users coming in and working on. You can assign users parts of your website to edit. You can actually work it that way so that you can control who's editing what. It's not as sophisticated as some of the content management systems like Joomla or Drupal, but it's still usable. Okay? And there's also, I believe, some plugins that enhance it. So if you want to get fancy with user management. If you have a little larger company, that's a good idea. It's best not to have people who you're hiring to have control of your whole website. Best to restrict them to certain tasks. That's just because one of the biggest problems with websites getting hacked, the majority problem has always been former employees. They do the most damage. So, sad but true. Okay? You can do drafts of your articles and preview them. Of your articles. That's not a web page. So I wanted to make a distinction. You can do the article and hold it as a draft until you get it perfect and then publish it. So there's the concept of publishing a page versus building the draft. You have archive and search within your system. You can have people comment on your pages or posts. People come in, and this is part of what is defined as social media. is social media is user-generated content. That means the people that come in generate content. And one of the key social media tools within blogs is the ability to comment. And there's whole comment management, there's spam management tools built right into WordPress so that you don't get spammed by everybody who wants to try to put a comment on your website and therefore get a backlink. It's become very popular, and now Google's really coming down on it, so hopefully we see less of it. And the last thing, notifications, yes.
A couple weeks ago, I asked you a question about setting permissions for multiple users, and you had suggested that this is basically for a one or two person kind of deal working together. But yet you say multiple users, are you talking 3 to 5 or less than
I'm just-
5
well,
versus Drupal or those kind of things?
Yeah, it doesn't match Drupal and Joomla's user permission tools, okay? It doesn't match that out of the box.
Mhm.
It's fairly simple, but you can restrict users to certain areas. But it's limited. I believe, I've looked at a few plugins that look like they give you more restrictions on it,
Okay.
okay? So I think there's plugins that will enhance that. But I don't know, I'm not gonna sit here and promise you that it matches Joomla and Drupal, which are very extensive user management tools built into those. In fact, you can literally restrict the page and the parts of the page that somebody can edit with Joomla or Drupal. I don't think, I'm certain out of the box you can't do that with WordPress, but there may be plugins that get you somewhere close to that.
This is more geared maybe 2 to 3
In terms of users using it, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
In terms of out of the box, right, yes.
So you have a manager on the account itself, and basically if you are outsourcing someone to come in, you can specify
A page that they
a
edit.
page that they can edit, but they cannot access any of the other information
Right.
for editing.
Right, they'll try to click it and it'll say, you're not permission.
Unauthorized user.
Yeah.
No one's add-in or
I haven't used it a lot, that I don't know how much the default goes in that direction, but there are, like I said, tools, plugins that enhance that. which are more specific. Whereas with Joomla and Drupal, it's user management's built in, because Joomla and Drupal are geared toward larger companies, where you have whole teams, you have a marketing team and a sales team, and you want to restrict the use of those
Certain
resources,
departments.
right? Now installing WordPress. Okay, some of you, or most of you, have it installed in some form, but we're gonna go through that process in case you wanna install it again, or in case you just wanna know what actually happened when it got installed. First of all, you have WordPress.com. Now, you have two, WordPress.org, so you need to know the difference. WordPress.com is a free service in which you get a free website that you can attach to a domain, but it's totally controlled by WordPress.com. They limit the number of themes that they allow you to use. They have a list of them, you only use the ones they have listed. They limit the number of plugins that they have available for you. So you can only use the plugins that they have listed, because they don't want you to shut down their servers by putting a plugin in that they have tested and authorized, okay? So it's limited. Plus you can get other services on top of that that you then have to pay for. That's how they exist. They exist by selling you those extra services. So even though it's free, if you want to do anything fancy, you're going to pay. So keep that in mind. So that's WordPress.com. And they're run by a group of people that are the primary developers at WordPress.org. WordPress.org is the open source free source code to WordPress. Okay, where you can actually look at the code and you can take it and run away with it. You can back it up and put it on this side or in that side. Remember, with WordPress.com, you cannot back it up and take it somewhere. It's theirs, not yours. You just get to use it. It's a service. It's called software as a service, or a hosted service. Those are the terms you're going to see. So WordPress.org is the real source code. But you have to install it. You have to work on it. Yes?
When I created my WordPress page, back when WordPress first came out, they gave me a domain name, WordPress, I don't remember if it was com or /my name.
Yeah, that's because you use the com.
That's the com.
You use the com version.
Thank you.
you didn't use the .org version. It's the same source code, it's just that it's used differently.
I got my WordPress from GoDaddy, so it is in all.
Yes, they have an automatic installer and they're using the WordPress.org copy. So yes, you're using the WordPress.org version. They just created an automatic installer for you, and I'll be talking about that. And that's, the next thing I'll be talking about is hosting services. Like GoDaddy, some hosting services provide install tools. They have an actual tool that you select it on their little panel, I want WordPress, and it goes off and it asks you a couple questions and it installs it. Okay? Does all the work for you. Boom, 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 it's done. Okay? And that's probably what you have. GoDaddy, HostGator, many of those have that. We'll talk about in more detail. Install packages. There are many companies, and SonicSpider is one of those, that have hosting packages where we do hosting packages where we install it for you. We also have install packages where we can install it on and customize it for you on GoDaddy or HostGator or wherever. In other words, we have various install and setup packages that allow us to do some fancy things for you. So if you want somebody to just do it for you and you want to be a little different than just the default install, then we have services that will do that for you. And then in general, there are consultants out there, we call them web developers, that will hire them and they'll do all that. Just like SonicSpider and Sonic Web. Okay? Limitations of WordPress.com. Just sort of go, I've kind of mentioned them already. Limited theme selection, plugins are extra money, other services are extra. You want to add a domain, space upgrades, and you want to eliminate ads. The default free one has ads. Okay, that's how they survive. They have ads. Yep.
Why would a person use WordPress.com versus .org?
Aunt Minnie, who just wants to do a blog for the family, will probably use WordPress.com. You're right, I can't imagine a business doing it. Okay, why would a business want other people's ads on their business that they're not getting any revenue from, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, but for Aunt Minnie, it's perfect because they control everything for you and they make sure that she doesn't get in trouble. So if your mother or your aunt or your whatever wants the WordPress site so they can put up funny pictures to share with the whole family, point them to WordPress.com. Because that'll be easy and simple and they'll stay out of trouble. Because they won't let her get in trouble. Because they don't want Aunt Minnie to crash the server. Do it yourself. WordPress.org is do it yourself, largely, with some help of hosting services that will also help you do some of it. The process is this. You download WordPress from WordPress.org. You confirm hosting and database requirements is match your hosting. There's some specific requirements, which I'll go into. You copy to the server and unzip it onto your server. You set up the database name and location. Within your cPanel, there will be a place that says create database, and you'll create a database, and you write down the name, and so then when WordPress install comes up, it'll ask you for the name, and you type in the name. So, it's not too hard, but you gotta pay attention. Run the install, which takes all of 30 seconds. It's very fast. Boom. It's over. And now you have a basic install. The basic install, for somebody that kind of knows what they're doing, takes about under 30 minutes. Between 15 to 20 minutes, depending on problems you might encounter with your hosting service. That's about the only thing that will cost you time. So if somebody tells you they can install WordPress, it's going to take them 2 hours, I would kind of go, wait a minute. Should we be charging about a half hour of their time? Unless something goes wrong. I have had situations, for example, Earthlink. I had somebody want to install WordPress on Earthlink. There was a whole bunch of problems with their PHP version, and it wouldn't install. So we spent hours trying to work around it. We finally did. But we spent hours. But that's because there was problems with the hosting services version of PHP. Okay, great technical, geeky kind of thing. So, but I don't think you're going to run into that problem with your mainstream hosting services like GoDaddy or HostGator or some of those. I think they're pretty good at keeping their versions of PHP up to snuff so that it's compatible. Okay, did I lose you on that one? Hosting services, which we talked about here. Basically, you click a button and it installs, boom. It figures out what the database is, it creates the database name for you, it does all of that stuff without you knowing what's going on. Yes?
Just got an email today that HostGator has a 99% off discount going for the next couple of days. You can get like 6-month hosting for just a few $20.
Right. Yeah, there's a kind of a war going on amongst the hosting. Matter of fact, I was just noticed just got an alert through, was it Dark Reading or one of those, that GoDaddy went down for a while.
That's why, that was the reason why HostGator gave this big thing, because we're trying to get people
But-
to switch over.
But HostGator's gonna get nailed too. So, I mean, nobody should stand there. Anybody who tells you that they aren't going to get broken into and they aren't gonna get brought down is lying to you. Even the DOD, Department of Defense can't say that. So, you know, that's a dream. Everybody's gonna get hit. So just might as well accept that.
One more question.
Yes.
Say I install WordPress on my website and I'm almost completed. Can I go in to that WordPress and install a new version right then and there? Or will that possibly mess up my website?
When you go to the admin, it will, up at the top in the yellow bar, you'll see upgrade. Just upgrade it.
Okay, so I mean, if I'm not, I mean, it's taking like a month to do this.
Now, I will go into some details about that, okay?
Okay,
So,
perfect. Thank you.
I will go into some details. There is some cautions
Caveat.
Yes, sir.
go through. One of the positive issues that I have seen with this process is that some hosting services don't have the most recent version of WordPress in part of their install, which is potentially not good, especially if you don't realize that it's important, and may have out-of-date plugins or themes installed for you automatically. And that could mean your website is vulnerable to hacking. So you do have to be aware of that. You need to ask the question, what's the version of WordPress that you're installing, and are there any additional plugins that you install automatically, and what are those versions? So you can do a little side research and make sure everything's up to date. Because if they're not, you will get hacked.
When you use cPanel, and the install is rather easily done, is a version of WordPress from the cPanel version, or is it from the hosting version on the server, the host?
It should say, as part of their install system, what version of WordPress they're installing. If they don't, then you should find out. But it should say, right there, installing version 3.5.1, I think is the latest version.
I just didn't know if it came from the cPanel version. Is that part of cPanel itself?
Now, cPanel uses a tool, an installing tool.
Or is it part of the
Fantastico
host?
is one of them, Scriptitious is another one.
Right.
They use their open source tools that do the installs for you. And they have a template piece of WordPress that they've customized somewhat, or not at all, that it grabs, but it doesn't grab the one on WordPress.org. They have their own little copy. So if they don't refresh that regularly, then you may be, I've seen situations where people had version 2 point whatever installed within the last year. And that's kind of ridiculous if you don't have at least 3.x installed. So yeah, there's some, you should know that. It's just a matter of, I'm just warning you to be an educated consumer. That's basically what I'm telling you.
GoDaddy sent an email today saying that there is an upgrade for WordPress.
Yeah, when you go into your admin, you should always, if there's ever an upgrade, it'll show up automatically across the top as a kind of a yellow bar. I'll show you that, okay? Where you can just update it. I mean, you should be able to see it right away when you go into your admin panel for WordPress. Okay, install services. If you want to do something a little more custom, or you want a little more hand-holding, there's all kinds of install services. I'm going to tell you about our install services. We have the Right Start free WordPress site. Basically, all it costs you is hosting, as low as $6 a month. And you get first 3 months free hosting. And you get 1 hour of free technical support. I'll help you for an hour. fix things, do things for you, and you get a basic install. Your basic install will look very much like this one here. This is what you'll get. That's a basic install. The name up here. You'll be able to log in. And this is your admin. And you see that orange, yellow bar across the top? That tells you that you need to update. I intentionally didn't update this test version because I wanted you to see that little bar. But that's, you'll just click that, and boom, it will update you. And there's some cautions I'll go through on that. Yes?
Aside from the hosting, what's the advantage of working with SonicSpider as opposed to just like Fantastico that just puts it up when you get the domain?
You want to do some custom stuff. And you want it done for you. And you want 1 hour of free technical support, which you're not going to get with a lot of these other services. You call some, and the technical support is literally a WordPress expert versus somebody who's just hired at minimum wage. I'm not minimum wage, and you're probably going to talk to me. And you get 1 hour of free of my time. Yes.
From that right there, your dashboard, when you installed your theme, when you plug in your themes, they are very, very minimal, aren't they?
Some of them are. Some of them are very fancy. Oh yeah, there's a wide range of
Because it
themes.
seemed like whenever I pulled some up, I didn't have very many. I had to go to actually WordPress.com to pull up the themes, and then I couldn't transfer them to my dashboard.
No, you wouldn't go to WordPress.com. You go to WordPress.org.
So
Right.
that's probably my problem right there.
Right. You need to go. What you do is you want to install themes, and you type in the kind of theme, or you can browse different themes.
Yeah, see, I put that theme in there and it didn't come up, so I must have went to
Right.
.com.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. We'll come back to this page at various times, so and show you things. Okay, we also have, if you really want to get fancy, we have the Sonic Web Tech Install Services where we'll really customize it. We can make your WordPress site look like anything you want to imagine. You imagine it, you can do it. By the way. So, yeah, then it's a budget issue. But we literally can make it look any way you possibly can imagine. Okay? And so those are our install services that we have. After the install, okay, most of you, this is where you started. You've already had WordPress. Install's done, you've tinkered around, and that's where we're going to spend our time going forward. Choosing theme, plugins, and maintenance. Maintenance is really important. You've got to do maintenance, otherwise you can be in trouble. What are themes? WordPress is a template engine. It takes pieces and puts them together to present a page to the browser. So it's a template engine. And templates manage the layout of components. There's a master template, which if you download a theme, then there's a different master template that controls how these pieces get placed. Okay? And you have style sheets to manage. If you know anything about CSS, you can go into the style sheet through the editor and play with that and change all kinds of colors and backgrounds and stuff like that. Okay? We'll go into that more in detail when we talk about themes next month. We'll go into actually going in and showing you how to edit that stuff. Okay? If you really want to get into it. Choosing a theme. As of yesterday, there were 1,596 themes on WordPress.org. Okay, that's the free themes. There is also commercial themes they have listed there, and then there is companies out there that have all kinds of themes. They have a whole suite of themes that you can go to and purchase themes. We'll talk about what's good and bad about different themes. And we'll talk about the kinds of things to look for when you're looking at a theme. And how do you spot a problem? What's the danger sign? What are the red flags when you're looking at themes? And then we'll touch upon a little bit of customization, but we'll hit that even more next month. Red flags. Author unknown or missing version history. So if you're looking at the theme and you're there's usually some information about the theme available. If there's no information, I I would run fast the other direction. Okay? There was a theme a customer used a couple years ago that was actually put out and made available by somebody in China who stole it from somebody else. And this theme, they used the theme, and suddenly the theme broke when they added a new plugin, and their website just went dead. I mean, as in blank dead. They had to pay me 5 or 6 hours worth of time, not cheap, to get it back up again. I had to go in and hack like crazy with the PHP code, fix things. Okay, so it was very expensive to get it back up again. And their theme was a stolen theme that somebody had hacked up and done things with. So the minute they did an upgrade, boom, it all blew up on it. Because it didn't follow the rules. So be careful. You can be very confident that the themes available on WordPress.org are safe, because they're pretty anal about making sure all those are good. You also, if you have some question about a theme, go into the WordPress forums and do a search on that theme. See if anybody had any complaints on it. If there was no complaints on it, that's a good sign. Do a post. Hey, anybody know anything about this theme from this company? And if there was any problems, you'll get 20 messages. Believe me, these guys, they really get on to anybody who's having a problem. So that's a good way to vet a theme. Okay? You want to make sure it's cross-browser compatible. This day and age, you want to make sure anybody can see it, regardless of what browser they're using. You can go to w3c.org/validate. Okay, it's in the URL, to the URL, and you can validate the code, and it should validate out of the box.
Could you repeat that URL?
www.w3c.org/validate.
Thank you.
Sorry I mangled that the first time I went through it. My brain kind of made a U-turn in the middle of the URL. Anyway, make sure it validates out of the box. That's important. That means everything's nice and clean, and you've got a good starting point. A theme that uses tables to structure and layout is a very bad sign. That's very old, pre-2000, 90s.
Does anyone remember front page?
Yeah, that was all tables.
That was table.
Yeah.
Very messy.
You also want to make sure you have access to the CSS, the style sheet. If you don't have access to the style sheet, you could have problems because you've been limited as to what you can do, and someday you're going to regret not having access to the style sheet. Even if you personally don't do it, you may hire somebody to do it. And another danger, especially in the case of this, there'll be hidden code. Sometimes one way for Trojans and bots to distribute their code is to put out themes that automatically install a Trojan onto your website. So that's something to be cautious of. Again, practice safe theme searching. It's sad that the world's like that, but it is. There's another tool out there that's available. It's called Theme Builders. I would recommend, if you're kind of new at it and not very technical, that you not use these, because they can be very good if you're a little more technical. Basically what you're doing is they have a WYSIWYG that lets you build your own custom theme, and then it generates all the code and then you install it. It's called Theme Builder. One of the problems, and two names are iThemes and Artister. There's two that you can go look at. They're very nice. Possible engine issues, and I'm the curmudgeon always. You know, I'm your head curmudgeon. There's layers of auto code built into there that might be a problem if you want to customize beyond that. So there may be some issues there. Upgrading issues. I've seen on the forums where some people complained about they upgraded their WordPress afterwards and it broke stuff. So there may be issues there. Hopefully those are getting better. And plugin compatibility. I saw some complaints of plugin compatibility with some of the theme builder tools. So it's a good idea if you want to use one of their tools to kind of get on their forums, Go to WordPress forums, say, hey, how is this tool? Get some feedback. Yes.
I just came across me last, I had this guy from freelance.com to do some web search, design on my website, and was saying not to do what I did, basically get him to sign in to my WordPress. And I came across a virus, this was Saturday morning, I just told him, so I couldn't log in, nothing, I couldn't even do anything at all. So I was like, what the hell, no, this can't be happening, you know? So I figured out how to get through it, I got rid of it. Now, what should I do in that instance now? Should I actually go back into, my domain and change everything, or my sign-in?
You change your sign in to WordPress, definitely.
No, it is WordPress. I gave them all that information.
Well, go ahead and change it. You can go ahead and change it.
And then that's it.
Yeah. So then there's a couple of tools that you can install to scan your code and make sure it's cleaned up.
Okay.
I
And
think,
on WordPress.
they're plugins.
They're plugged, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think I'll have them listed a little bit here, if not, I'll tell you. I can't remember right. They're in the ebook, definitely. Okay.
And you said I could just pull that up, right? It's not, do I have to buy
Yeah,
that?
one's called,
Do I have to buy that ebook?
no, it's free.
Okay.
All you have to do is give me your email address.
No problem. Thank you very much.
That's the best we can do for free.
Yeah. Finding just the right theme. Okay, here's some issues that you probably want to consider as you're looking at themes. These are sort of generic issues, but they're definitely you should consider. If you're a business or a hobby, that will determine which themes are appropriate for you. If it's a hobby, you would stick to largely to like a blogging and a simple theme. Weaver, the Weaver theme, or the default theme that comes with it are very good. Weaver is a very good basic theme that gives you a lot of capabilities to customize later on, and you're safe. It doesn't take over. It's considered one of the better safe themes out there. Built-in SEO. One of the things to consider is many themes today come in with built-in SEO tools. That's kind of a good thing. Keep an eye out for that, especially if you don't want to have to bother figuring it all out. And that way, it's kind of built in for you. Support for widgets and tags. Make sure there's support for widgets and tags. Not all themes support widgets and tags. Most of them do today, but make sure it does. And check and see how active people are that use that theme. Is it an actively used thing? I mean, yes, you don't necessarily want to have the same theme as 50 million other people, but you can alter it enough to make it look different. But you do want to make sure that there's an active support. Because remember, you're probably, if you're not paying for the theme, you're hoping that somebody keeps it up to date. And that generally is true if there's a big user community using it. If not, then you might want to go to a commercial theme so that you're guaranteed support. Actually pay some money for the thing. And then you're a little more guaranteed that you're going to get support down the road when something goes wrong and you want help. Where to find themes? WordPress.org has 1,596 themes. God, I remember that. There's also what are called GPL themes. GPL is the open source license that governs WordPress itself. And these are themes that people have developed, but they commercially support them. In other words, they're open source themes. The basic install probably is free, but then you can buy support for that theme. And if you're kind of new with that and you feel like you need a little hand-holding maybe down the line, that may be a good ticket for you, because you can have somebody you can go to that will help you if you get stuck. And then you have your full-on commercial themes, where you have to literally buy it. $50, $25, $100, depending on how fancy the theme is. And of course, they have their own support. So those are your three worlds that you can travel in terms of themes. Plugins. Basically, plugins enhance WordPress. Themes enhance the look and the layout. Plugins enhance the actual functionality of WordPress. They actually are like little miniature applications that are plugged into your WordPress. Plugin categories fall into SEO and statistics, how many people have hit your site, how long they've stayed, all those kinds of things, good for understanding the use of your site. You have maintenance tools to help you maintain, and the biggest maintenance tool you should have before you do anything else, is a backup. You should install a backup. You have social media, all kinds of social media tools. It lets you post something and have it automatically go to Facebook and Twitter and where? LinkedIn, yeah, I mean, yeah, it'll just go everywhere, depending on the tool. You have e-commerce. The e-commerce tools aren't as fancy as a real full-on shopping cart, but if you're not getting into a lot of products, they're perfect, because they tie right into your website really nicely. And vertical market types of tools. There's plugins and out there that are cost a little more, but they automatically turn your site into a sales machine. Literally a sales machine in terms of salespeople and stuff. So, I mean, there's all kinds of vertical market plugins out there that literally can turn your site into a specialized type of tool. Installing plug-in tips. This is probably more important, one of the most important pages. The big circle around it. Especially the third item. Back it up. Before you install, read the documentation before you install your plugin. Know what you're doing. Don't just, oh, that looks neat, that's a cool name.
Yeah.
Pow! Goodbye. Goodbye. Read, take a minute, take a deep breath, understand what you're installing. WordPress Auto Installer, if you have trouble with it installing, one of the tools, plugins you want to install is called Core Control. I install it on every WordPress site I install. I consider it a valuable diagnostic tool. You don't really have to install it unless you think you're having some problems with your install. You may have to manually install it if you're having trouble with your installs, but that's easy. You just put the zip file in the install window, browse, and boom, and it will install itself, so you can work around that. But it will tell you what your problem is. What is it that you need to go to your hosting service and say, hey, you need to fix this because I can't do the auto installs. You really want the auto installs set up. Otherwise, it's a pain. Back it up. I can't say that enough, a million times. Back up before you do anything. Back up before you install your plugin. Test it, make sure you're happy, back it up again. Back it up before you change your theme. Back it up before you do anything. And then when you're just feeling in the mood, back it up again.
Okay, dumb question.
Yes.
Where do you back up?
They're backup plugins. You have to install a backup plugin.
Okay, and where does the
But you want to know where that goes.
Yeah, I'd like to know where that's assigned, otherwise that means nothing to me.
You can direct it.
You can direct it, okay, so
Yeah,
like, but to
yeah,
an
you can
external
tell
hard
it where
drive?
to, if you go to your plugins and you say add new and you type in backup, you can see that it's right there. I use it all the time. And do search plugins. You can see there are 436 different backup plugins. So don't try to tell me you can't find one.
Okay, and then, like you're saying, you direct it once you've
Then-
installed it. Thank you.
And look at your plugin. The ones that are better will allow you to back it up to a different remote location.
Excellent.
And generally you would like a plugin that also has the option of sending you your backup through the mail. So you have a copy. You want to somehow have a copy for yourself on your machine away from your server system. Because if that crashes, then you have your little package. You can go and install it all brand new and everything's happy. Yes.
So I noticed he has an Apple, and they come with Time Machine, so if it's backed up on an external drive, is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm referring to
To
right
net-
now, when you do a backup, typically it'll write the backup to that server, HostGator or GoDaddy server.
Right.
You want to make sure you get a copy over onto your personal machine when you do a backup. So that if something goes wrong, GoDaddy goes down, like just happened, you have a copy. Okay.
So it is on an external drive, personal external drive.
Can
It
be
could
an
on
external
your
drive, your
personal
personal
hard drive
machine.
or external drive or whatever, yeah. But
Thumb
I'm talking
drive.
about backing it up from the server to your
Got it.
machine. Okay?
Got it.
Yes.
When I back it to my machine, can I modify it on my
Mhm.
machine and then upload it?
No, That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a package, zip file. It's got,
Wrong operating system.
it's got everything in a package, zipped up. Okay?
With the front page, you could,
Don't say front page. Don't say front.
I know.
I said that earlier, I was, sorry.
No, I was using front page and I would have it on my.
Not with WordPress.
Not with
WordPress. No, not at all.
John did
Do
mention,
WordPress, don't think front page. That's like,
John did mention we use dev servers for those reasons. You can also purchase that kind of
yeah,
server where you can have your website backed up entirely separately. So if it goes down on one service, you're still up. That's called failover.
yeah, that can be set up for you. Rich can do that. Yes?
I think I already answered it. You made a comment about the backup plugin doing zipped units, if you will. Is the question I was gonna ask, was it that much better to use a backup plugin or just copy the files from the server down to the local machine?
That would work. That would work fine. Most people don't really know how to have access to FTP to their server. If you have FTP access, then suck it up.
How else are you gonna work on it?
Well, you
never
can
mind.
unzip the file.
No, I meant logging on your site.
Yeah, right. Right, yes.
So when GoDaddy just went down, do people who had backups on GoDaddy lose them?
It's possible.
I doubt it, but it's possible, but I doubt it. I think it was, they got hacked, but it's hard to know what the hackers did, whether they damaged something. Most likely GoDaddy had incremental backups, so they did some restoring, but incremental backups are not done every 5 seconds. They're done every hour or every 15 minutes. So if you happen to have been working on your site and it crashed, you could have lost something.
Other than that, the big bad thing about it was your site was down.
Yeah, that was the big problem. And I don't fault GoDaddy on this. I wouldn't fault anybody because this is just the world we live in. Okay, so I wouldn't say that GoDaddy's bad because they got hacked. I would say anybody who claims otherwise is probably lying to you.
The point
You
is,
are gonna get hacked.
you need to have a backup plan.
Right, you need to have your own emergency plan. Don't rely on GoDaddy, don't rely on HeySkater's backup. You need to have your own plan, because there are situations where it just didn't work out. If you've got your own backup, you're safe.
One more
So-
question. One more thing on backups. Now, if I'm working on my WordPress site and you're saying I back it up basically through HostGator, should I back it up on my computer on a daily basis, or should I back it up like you're saying on my computer also?
I wouldn't worry about daily basis. I would be, depends on your website. If you have a website where there's a lot of activity coming in, like an e-commerce site, then you might want to back it up very regularly. If it's a site where you don't have necessarily activity going on, then I would make sure I back it up before I do something, so you have a pre-backup, and then after you're done. So you have a pre and a post version in case something goes wrong. You can literally go back to your old version if you suddenly discover something. 2 weeks later you discover some little glitch and you decide you want to go back, well then you can't, right? Otherwise you can't. Sure. Go back. So you can't have too many backups. One of the things that I do is I have a backup system that literally sends me copies of my backups. Right there they are. Okay? So each one of those is a backup, dated, stored for me. Okay? So there are systems that do that. Okay?
One more question. How do you back up all those things on that laptop?
I have Time Machine and Copy Cloner going simultaneously.
Okay, I got you.
I have two. I'm really anal. I'm really
I
anal.
was wondering. How does that happen?
I have been doing this a long time, and I have been tripped more times than you count. And so I literally have a clone of my hard drive that gets cloned every night. So if my whole hard drive crashes, I can plug into one of my other Macs, bring it up, and go right back to work again. And then I have the Time Machine going. So I have incremental backups on 3 terabytes of space, so.
What was the name of the other one? There's Time Machine and.
Copy cloner. It literally clones your hard drive. You have to use a FireWire. You won't do it over USB. It has to be FireWire. So it has to be a FireWire hard drive, and it should be the same size as your hard drive in your Mac. And it will literally create a copy, carbon copy of what's on your machine. So you can plug it into another Mac of the same vintage, and you can boot up on that hard drive and go right back to work as though nothing ever happened. And then when you get your new machine back, you can plug in carbon copy and suck it all over there and be right back where you started from. So basically, you have, I am so that you can't destroy me. That's the way I am.
With good reason. There is a lot of challenges. There are a lot of challenges.
I have been destroyed before, so I learned the hard way.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, let's go back. Okay. Maintenance.
Back up.
Back up, back up, back up, back up. Have I said that enough? No. Update, you back up whenever you update WordPress or plugins, you back up. And you want to go in and clean dead links and comments, because people like to just comment and say all kinds of weird stuff. Yes.
Yeah, I have like 75 weird comments about something in another language. Is there a good anti-comment
Yeah,
plugin or?
WordPress comes with one. It's called AskMet.
It's called what?
I'm not pronouncing it right, maybe I'll show it to you. It's called AskMet, I believe it is. Oh, no, that's not it.
They're always wondering why I'm not at the top of Google too.
It's right there. AskMet. You want to activate that and sign up and get your key, and that will wipe out probably 95–96% of your comment spammers right there. Boom, they're gone. Real cool. And then you can work on the other 6%.
It's really small.
Spell it, please, we can't see it.
AKISMET.
Yes,
Kismet.
it's automatically part of the default WordPress install. So unless somebody has removed it, it should be sitting there, not activated. You need to activate it. And then you'll have to, it'll give you directions to go to their website and you get a key. And they offer a free personal key, and then if you're using, we need more than one key for more than one website, then you have to pay. Okay, so you get a free personal key.
And that cleans up again comments?
Yes, cleans up, it does a good job. It cleans up your comments. I've seen sites that have like thousands of comments, garbage comments, and they put that in there and suddenly almost no comments. You know, it really cleans them up. Because these people that spam are known, and they have a service
It's
that
all for
tracks these people.
backlinks, right? That's what
Yeah, it's all for backlinks, right, backlink stuff, yes.
Well, I just don't know what kind of comment you'd want to, what comments you would delete ahead of time before you had a chance to look at it. Was it like just
Oh,
junk or
spammers,
something?
there are spammers out there that spam for backlinks, or Viagra, and God knows what. And you have to obviously approve them before anybody can see them, but they have flooded your comment. And, you know, it's kind of like can't see the trees for the forest. Suddenly you can't see the legitimate comments. So,
Do they use IP addresses for that, or are they using some algorithm for keywords or?
yeah, they probably use a multiple algorithm, IP addresses and other things. So they have a whole list of spammers. I actually have a service that I use for my custom web applications that goes to a spamming service, and I can check on IP addresses and domains if somebody even lands on my sites. And I can check and see if they're spam or just kick them right off. You know, so there are services out there that you can subscribe to, like when your Drupal works. There are services out there that you can just plug right into your code to check who landed on you and kick them right off if they're a spammer, if they're a known spammer. Okay. So and that's a good thing to do if you're doing a custom site, especially for a business. You don't even want them landing on your site. You one of them, they're gone. You send them to this dummy page somewhere, is what I do. Then they can't do anything, just a dead end. Okay? Okay. Validate your site if you've done some major changes, see if you haven't done something weird to your site, good idea. Optimize your database, there's tools out there, plugins that will optimize your database. You can also, if you're a little geekier, you can go into your cPanel and log into my PHP admin, and there's an optimizing tool there too. And if you've got a lot of activity going on, it's a good idea. Keeps things humming. It's like tuning your engine, you know. Gets rid of the garbage and gets all those database links nice and clean. And SEO updates. And keep up to date with your SEO tools. Don't get behind because that game is changing constantly. Okay, well, it took me 5 minutes longer this one. Oh well, I tried. This is what we did today. We talked about what WordPress is and what it can do for you. We talked about how to get it up and running and all the different options for getting up and running. We talked about how to use WordPress as a website builder, and we'll go into that more extensively on the next month with themes. We talked about what themes and plugins are and the basic issues, so that you're kind of forewarned and forearmed. And I think I've illustrated how much work this is without actually telling you. There's a lot involved, okay? And you can hire it out, or you can do it yourself, or you can do a combination. Okay? One of the things that we have at SonicWebTech.com, and this flyer here, is that we have services where you do it yourself and we help you when you get in trouble. Okay, and that's kind of nice, where you have somebody that you can buy like an hour of tech support, and then you can log in when you need it and ask a question and get help whenever you need it. Just sort of like it's like having an expert in your back pocket type. Okay, so that service is available at SonicWebTech.com, and there's some flyers up here for you. Okay, and that's kind of it for today. If you have any other questions, we have to be out by 4 o'clock, but you can talk my ear off in the meantime, okay? And I hope I have helped you get started.
Thank you. Thank
I write the content, but I send it to her. But you still should know.